to another episode of This Podcast Fits Your Macros. First of all, I'm Coach Caileen, your macro queen. This is going to be a solo episode. No Coach Ryan today. I'm going to take this one on my own, and we are going to talk about all the different lab testing that will be available through our little integrative health portion of Team Flex. So I'm super duper excited to go over all of that with you. I'm realizing now that I did not come prepared with is it worth the macros? So my apologies on that. I will make it up for next time because let me tell you, they've got some good fall stuff going. So if you have any requests for me to try it out, please, as always, put it in the comments and I would be happy to try that out for you. Now, back to what I was saying. We are going to be talking about all the testing that we are doing with Team Flex. This is what I got my extensive continuing education about because it was something that I became really passionate about. Over the past couple of years, I've had a lot of gut issues, I've had a lot of hormone issues, and the truth is it's all connected. And the real truth is that a lot of our issues within our body, whether it's skin, acne, constipation, fatigue, brain fog, all of these things can be due to underlying root issues in the body that these tests can find out. So I'm super excited to go through all of this with you. I will try not to make it too drawn out and boring. If I'm going too long, let me see, I'm going to start a timer. If I'm going too long, I'll break this up into a two-parter because there's a lot to go over, honestly. And my apologies if you are listening through the podcast. If that is you right now, please know I'm going to do my best to describe for you verbally what's going on, but this may just be one that if you're going to watch on a YouTube, like I personally am a podcast person. I do not like watching YouTubes because I don't like having my phone open the whole time, and I'm usually listening to these types of things while I'm working out. But anyway, if you are able to watch this on the YouTube, do it, like it, drop a comment if it helped you out, or if you have any questions, and I'll be checking those frequently to make sure that your questions are being addressed. So, testing. I'm going to start out with the easiest one, and that's going to be the food sensitivities, okay? So, I don't know if you've heard about food sensitivities, and I'm not talking allergic reactions. I'm not talking about, on Hitch when he eats like the shellfish and his face swells up. That is an IgE reaction. Immediately you see things swelling up. So we're not talking about that. IgG reactions are reactions to food that are more sneaky, I should say. They sneak up more in the 24 to 72 hour mark. So you can eat something, you can feel fine immediately, and then just kind of feel like garbage the next couple days. Maybe you have more bloating, maybe you're just fatigued, things like that. So our food sensitivity testing is quite thorough. I forget exactly how many foods, but I think it's over 200. So we'll just go over a couple of these right here. So the first page is the dairy. You got dairy, peas, fruits, grains. This is super extensive, honestly. I have done another company, not as extensive. Oh, here it is right here. This actually says 190, but I think since they've started the testing, it's up over the 200 range. So page 2, we've got our grains, seafood, meat, nuts, vegetables. And page 3, we've got more vegetables, herbs, spices, bromelain. I think there's actually another page 2, but I guess I did not put it on here. But you'll see the 4 different ranges. If you do have a range that's super high, never fear. Do I have a little markety thing? I don't know if you can see what I'm marking, but maybe I can't mark it. I don't know if you can see my cursor. But if you do have a level that's on the higher side, that doesn't mean you can never have this again. What we'll do is work through together what we can do to get your body to react less to these foods. So you can see here we've got some reds, some yellows all around here. And honestly, something like this that is just lit up like a Christmas tree could be indicative of leaky gut as well. So really cool to see this. If you have a lot of things flaring up, it's, cause for concern if you have nothing flaring up. That's actually cause for concern as well. So super awesome to find that out. This is actually one of 3 of the big 3 gut tests, which I think everybody and their mother should be taking. But we'll go into the other 2 tests of that later. Those are a little bit more intensive. So we're going to keep it going with the easier tests next, easy to comprehend, because we're just going to ease into this. So we are going to go into the inflammation test. So the inflammation test, I should mention, let's go back to the, poopy, sorry. Hang in there with me, YouTube people. This is my first time doing something like this. I was guided by Coach Ryan, and I'm so thankful for that because I'm a tech noob, if you don't know. Anyway, this is going to be a finger prick test at home. They give you the little pricky thing. You milk out a couple of dots on paper. It's really not that bad. And of course, nobody likes blood, but it definitely gets you some good information. So why not do that? Okay. Moving on to the inflammation test. So this is another blood test. Prick your finger. I actually did this and my food sensitivity test at the same time. Same day, actually, not the same time. I wish I did it at the same time because I could have milked out another couple of spots, but long story, I won't get into it, but I ended up doing it 2 different times this day. But yes, okay, so inflammation. We as Americans eat really shitty. I think you know that by now. We have a lot of fried food. We have a lot of processed food. We have, I don't know if you're familiar with the omega-3s to omega-6 ratio. There is a ratio that's healthy, and so many of us are not at that. If we have more omega-6 than omega-3, which omega-6 are found in a lot of the delicious foods that we love and we eat a lot of, we're going to become imbalanced, we're going to have inflammation, we're going to have cardiac events, and that's basically what we're measuring here. If you are interested in longevity in general, I mean, I don't know anybody who wants to die early, but I feel like there are definitely some more people who are interested in living as long as they can. And if that's you, this might be a test that you just want to take. I have done this one. I'm waiting for my results eagerly to see where I land. But there's several different graphs that I didn't include. These are the ones that are the most important, I would say. So let's talk about this bottom one. And for those listening, I am going to describe what you're going to see. So this has a arrow. On the left side of the arrow is red, and it kind of gradients up to green. And it kind of gives you the average of the U.S. American is 4.8. Now, if you look at this little arrow, that is in the yellow range here. So it's not a great place to be. We've talked about it. There's a million reasons. But as it says here, desired less than 9% correlates with a 90% risk reduction for sudden cardiac death. So we here on this example, these are all examples, by the way. These are not anybody's specific lab tests. This particular example got a 7.9. The U.S. average is 4.8. You kind of want to be above that 8%, 9%. Like, the higher you can be, the better overall your heart's looking. And, that heart, that's what's going to keep us pumping for a long time. Obviously, there are crazy freak accidents that we can get in tomorrow, and that would suck. But keeping your ticker working and optimal is super beneficial as well. So I'm going to take you to this top right graph here. And what this does is it kind of graphs the CHD mortality and tissue HUFA versus the percentage omega-3 and total HUFA. What that basically is saying is, like, on the lower end here, the CHD mortality, that's cardiac mortality. You can see these countries like Japan, Greenland, they're on the lower end. A lot of these, like Japan especially, I think is in the blue zone, which if you don't know blue zones, we'll talk about that later. As you start to head up on the graph, you can see the good old US of A is right up here in the, I would say, 125 or so. This star is where this particular person has landed. We want that star, obviously, to be more on the right side. And what this looks like for those, again, listening, is a oh God, taking me back to math, it is a negative slope. Ooh, is that right? Yeah. So top left corner is higher, bottom right is lower, and it's just, kind of showing different countries and where their average person lands. So this particular example here, this person is averaging about where someone in Spain would be. And, Spain, they're pretty healthy, but you can see they still have some room to be healthier. And over here again, we just have the total ratios. So we don't want our ratios to be, we want more of an ideal ratio of our omega-6 to omega-3s. The target is that 9%, and this person is right about 8. So if we have work to do on the inflammation, we can work through that together. Okay, where should we go next? It's so exciting. Let me see what I got here. Let's go to the hair tissue mineral analysis, because that was one I recently did. And I kind of screenshot a few of these. Is this mine? I think actually, I said earlier these were examples. This one is actually mine because I had them handy because I did a little reel about it. So if you are on Instagram, you can see my reel where I go into a little bit more detail. I'm not going to go into that detail now. I'm just going to show you what the hair tissue mineral analysis does show you. This one is no blood. This is your hair. So, I know it will probably freak some people out more than the blood. I know it did me a little bit, I'm going to be honest. So basically you cut your hair from the root. It's not a whole lot. They give you like this little scale, and as soon as you hit the amount on the scale, you're done cutting. It's really just like a tiny, tiny little amount, but it feels like a lot. And I did it myself, and I probably got a little bit more hair than I needed to, but we'll see how that looks later. Anyway, you mail it in and they will get you these results. We've got the nutrient minerals here. We've got additional minerals. The toxic metals, are what I was very surprised about for me. You can see I'm out of range on both mercury and aluminum, two things that are very frequent with our society. Lead can be out of range for a lot of people too, depending on where they live. But yeah, this was surprising to me. So, and then of course the mineral ratios. Your mineral ratios can actually say a lot about how you're feeling, and any imbalances can really kind of mess up your day. So it's really cool to be able to see this. And there's supplementation that I ended up taking to, rebalance myself so that I can feel a little better. So as hair tissue mineral analysis, it's in the name, it's hair, no blood here. Really cool for really everyone to do, especially if you're a little bit suspicious that you have some heavy metal toxicity. Maybe you live in an area where the water was polluted at one time or another. So we are going to move on. We are going to move on to the stress, mood, and metabolism one. This one, everybody, if you're having mood disorders, lethargy, just energy issues, tired and wired, not losing weight at the weight you would want, this is the test for you. I've got 4 screenshots for you on this test because it is so encompassing, and I really, really do love this test for so many reasons that I will describe now. Your stress, mood, metabolism test, you're going to be collecting both. You're going to be collecting blood and you're going to be collecting your saliva. And so why? And saliva at 4 different time points. Well, we are going to be looking at these markers here with your saliva. So your hormones are going to be here. Now you can see you have cortisol listed 4 different times here. So you're actually going to collect your cortisol at 4 different times because your cortisol should be various levels at 4 different times in the day. And I will show you that. I think it's the next slide, if not the slide after. If not, I will make it the next slide. And depending on your cortisol levels, we can see different stages of adrenal fatigue, and kind of knock that out, which is really great. As far as the sex hormones, we've got estradiol, progesterone, your ratio of progesterone to estradiol, which not many people look at, your testosterone, your DHEAs, the progesterone, estrogen, this is something, usually your practitioner, if you're lucky, will even test progesterone and estrogen. Sometimes it's just estrogen. But that balance is super important in determining whether you have some estrogen dominance going on. Estrogen dominance can affect so much and can be, indicative of underlying causes as well. So I really love that they have this on here. Your testosterone, we can see this is all age dependent where it's good, and we'll go over that individually. DHEA is precursor to a lot of these things, also age dependent, but you can see here cortisol morning, noon, evening, night. For ladies, you will need to time this test around your menstrual phase. So if that's something you want to do sooner rather than later, definitely purchase the test now. I'll give you the info to do that later, or in the link, I'm not sure. Or you can just hit me up. But anyway, if you want as quick results as possible, get it now, so that way we can make sure the timing is correct. Thyroid. Most of the time you go to the doctor and say, I think my thyroid's messed up. They're going to run TSH. This is the thyroid stimulating hormone. And this is just the hormone that says is your body trying to make thyroid? It is not indicative of the actual T4 and T3 that are free in your body. And they are not usually going to be tested during your labs unless you can request it. Maybe it's going to be extra. I don't know why they don't do it, but usually, if you've gotten blood work recently, check it. They probably just did TSH and they probably told you you're fine, but that might not be the case. I will say with all of these levels, as an integrative health practitioner, we are going to be a little bit more on the bullish side of because especially if you're listening right now to me, chances are you're an athlete. You are not the average American. And a lot of the times when you go to your doctor and you say, I'm feeling this, that, lethargic, not feeling myself, libido's down, they'll check your levels and they say, oh, you're fine. Well, you're not fine, clearly, by the symptoms, one. But two, it's they're comparing you to someone who's extremely sedentary, is eating garbage. You, chances are, if you're listening to this podcast, you're not either of those things, because you have pride in your health, because you're listening to me talk about things, especially all the times I talk about my poop. Kudos to you for listening. But anyway, that was a little sidebar. Back to the thyroid. Having your T4 and T3, we really get a full encompassing view of whether your thyroid is working or not. And then we have the TPO antibodies. I don't even think, and granted, I haven't got my blood work done since I've become an integrative practitioner, but I have never gotten a TPO antibody run. And I even, work with a naturopath, because naturopaths will test a little bit more than your average practitioner. But anyway, TPO antibody will let you know whether you're suffering from Hashimoto's. My sister just got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and it's it took months to be able to do that. And she didn't even know. She's like, oh, crap, I have Hashimoto's. But I will say, too, Hashimoto's is reversible. So if you are struggling with that, let's talk. Okay, so that's the thyroid. We've got insulin and hemoglobin A1C. We got those markers as well. Are you pre-diabetic? Are you diabetic? Let's figure that stuff out, because, again, same with the other markers. Your general practitioner might say, oh, you're fine, when really, you might not be fine. There's markers that we as integrative health practitioners like you to be above, and it's going to probably be a little bit more, I keep on trying to think of the word, vigilant. We're going to be more vigilant than, because you're not the average American. All right, well, that was all for one slide of this test. Now you're going to see why I love it so much. Okay, this one's a little shorty one. It just didn't fit on the first page. Vitamin D. Oh, so important for so many metabolic processes, as well as your immune system. We can test all these different levels, make sure you're within range, and if not, we'll get you all balanced out there. So that wasn't as long as I thought it was going to be. Ooh, I like this one a lot. I like these graphs a lot, okay? Because, and again, I'm so sorry if you're listening to this. We've got 4 graphs. We've got saliva, estradiol, progesterone, testosterone, and DHEAs. And what you'll see on most of these is a little curvature. So it spikes usually around, well, estradiol and progesterone has like a nice big curve around the 20, 30, 40 mark, and then it goes down and flatlines around, 60, 70, 80 for both of those. So these graphs, it will kind of show you where's a decent range to be. Obviously, we want to stay as close to the curvature as possible. It has, kind of the danger zones here, both high and low on both of these. So the testosterone, again, you'll see a peak right before the 20s, and then sadly, a gradual decline over time. Same with the DHEAs, peak around your 20s, and then slightly decline. So you can see here on this client, this dot is underneath the red line, which means their DHEA needs some work. Here we're on the higher end, but again, if you're an athlete, that might not be a cause for issue. Progesterone, almost low normal here for this client as well. This one I really like. Okay, so I talked briefly at the start of this about your cortisol and your different time points and why we're doing this. If you look at this graph, and if you aren't looking at this graph, you're listening, I'm going to do my best to describe it. We've got cortisol levels on the y-axis. We have time of day on the x-axis. And so we have different time points. Here, you're going to take it around waking, noon, around, what time is that? 3, 4 o'clock, and then it seems like right before bed. The green line here is how your cortisol should normally look when your adrenals are functioning properly. So you wake up and you get a nice little boost of cortisol because this, gets you out of bed. And again, if you're having troubles getting out of bed, maybe you are not having the proper amount of cortisol in the mornings. So we get out of bed, and then as the day goes on, our cortisol does taper off. It's not going to taper greatly, or it's kind of going to taper greatly until about noon, and then it's going to kind of level off as we get into the evening. And that's what we want to see here, but you can see we're a little low here and here. I wouldn't be too concerned about this unless we're having symptoms, but sometimes you'll see people who are low in the morning and high at night, so they're both tired and wired, so they wake up, they can't get out of bed, but then when it's time for bed, they can't go to sleep because their brain just won't shut off. If that is you, let's talk. But yeah, there's several different stages of adrenal emergencies, let's call it, and we can find them out here. And this is another thing. I had a client, I wanted her to do the testing. She couldn't quite spring for it at the moment, so she went with her general practitioner, and they did do cortisol testing, but they had her do it all in one big bucket. So there's no time of day. There's nothing. Like, we have no way of seeing what her cortisol were at these time points. So I kind of had a huge problem with that. And yeah, like, she got a report back that she's high cortisol, but it's like, but when? Is it high when we need it to be? Anyway, sidebar there. That is our stress, mood, and metabolisms test. Let's go into the poopy ones. Yeah, let's go into the stool test. Do I have good stuff here? Okay. So for the stool test, I actually don't have a good representation of the testing itself, but I kind of just want to go over, let's do this one at a time. I'm getting too crazy here about what the stool test will be. The stool test, as it sounds, is your poop. You're pooping and you're collecting it, and you're pooping for 3 days and collecting it, because you know why? Sometimes it doesn't always show up in the poop that you take the sample of. So this is a very, very, very full, encompassing sample collection, which I love. So let's make that, can I make this bigger? Again, pardon me, my noobness here. Yes, let's make that bigger. Okay, so, it's kind of blurry, but that's okay. We're going to look at the expected beneficial bacterial flora, dysbiotic bacterial flora, and normal and dysbiotic yeast. So we all have bacterial, we all have yeast. The problem comes is when, some are taken over. If you've ever been on antibiotics and have not been prescribed a probiotic to go along with it, chances are that opportunistic bacteria, because when you take antibiotics, you wipe out the whole damn microbiome. It is clean. And then, so as you start to repopulate it, what's going to happen? The opportunistic bad bacteria is going to take over, and that's going to cause a lot of issues from, obvious ones of gas, bloating, diarrhea, IBS, constipation, all that good stuff, to not so subtle ones as skin rashes and things like that, maybe allergic reactions to different things, histamine reactions, all that is the gut. Oh, and can we talk about the mood? That's a whole nother podcast, but your mood, your lack of depression or depression can be caused by your gut microbiome. I'm going to take a quick sip of water. Who am I kidding? It's not water, it's coffee, actually. It's decaf, though. Okay. Actually, I do have my water here. I do love water as well. But that was definitely a coffee drink. Okay, so we are looking at that yeast, okay? So if you're having a lot of yeast infections, if you're having a lot of, weird rashes, tongue whiteness, geographic tongue, if you have foot fungus, could be something in your gut. Okay, let's move this over. Parasites. Nobody likes talking about them, but if you eat a lot of sushi, or if you go swimming in a lot of open water, like I was doing for the past 3 years when I had my little spot at the lake, you might have collected some parasites, I know personally at the lake, I'd go in with my little sparkling water and those kids would be doing fucking cannonballs in there and getting fucking lake water in my shit, and it's like, oh, do I drink it or do I dump it out? Most of the time I dumped it out, but if it was a new one, I was like, whatever, I'll drink it. Parasites could be huge, so huge. You can see can be associated with increased intestinal permeability, IBS, IBM, malabsorption, gastritis. This can be huge too. Oh, joint pain. Oh, I didn't even talk about joint pain in the gut. Oh my gosh. Excuse me. But anyway, what was I going to go off on? Oh my gosh. Okay. So, joint pain is very important. What was I going to say though? That's what I was going to say. 1 second. Oh, and of course, immune function. Skin disorders you see here, joint pain, oh my gosh, so before I got my gut done, I don't know, for those who've been following for a while, I had joint pain forever in my SI joint that has since then cleared. Intestinal permeability, that's a huge one too, leaky gut, bloating, oh my gosh, so definitely great to see that. That's all part of the stool test. We also have yeast we talked about earlier, red blood cells. So we can early detect, or maybe you have, an inkling that you have UC or any of these issues here. We can rule those out with the stool test here and white blood cells. We can see whether we have Crohn's going on, ulcerative colitis. There we go. Yeah, let's see. We can also see if you're digesting things well. And pollen, allergies, crystals. We got lots of stuff. Like I said, these things are really all-encompassing. Here again, we're going to go into the parasites and bacteria, some of the ones we look for. Helicobacter pylori, H. pylori. I know so many people in my life who I'm 99% sure have H. pylori, but they don't want to spring for the testing. So a lot of the times, a good symptom is if you wake up first thing in the morning and you are already bloated, you probably have H. pylori. If you get a lot of ulcers, you probably have H. pylori. All able to fix with proper treatment. So, I need to say, sorry, I'm all over the place. I cannot treat, diagnose, cure anything. I will just help you get to your underlying root causes, okay? So, yeah, this is a good summary of what we're looking at. Digestion absorption markers, inflammation markers, short-chain fatty acid markers, occult blood in the microscopic stool. And they're actually having a human look at this stuff, man. Like, there's a human digging through your poop looking for these things, which is kind of nice because, you know, AI is great and stuff. And they also have, you know, robots doing it too. But it's kind of nice to have a human eye, you know, taking a look at things as well. Don't be freaked out about that, though. Everybody poops. Okay, moving on. This is the last one I'm going to go over for this test. It is very intensive. We've got about 75 different markers that we look at for this next test, and it is one that I have done recently and I just got results back from, and it was very insightful. So this is the Candida vitamins metabolisms test, also known as the organic acids test. This one is super easy because it's just a pee test. Easy peasy. You pee, you freeze it, you send it out. And as long as you don't drop your sample on the floor after freezing, like I did, or not screw it in all the way, like I also did, you should get your results within 4 weeks, which is awesome. This one is another one to kind of see what is going on in your gut. So the way that I'm just call it the organic acid test. The organic acid test works is it's looking for metabolites in your urine. So think about if you are going hunting as a hunter and you're trying to find a deer. It's going to be pretty handy for you to look for deer droppings, right? The excretions of the deer, that signals that the deer was there, correct? So that is what we're looking for here. Here you can see in our first 1 through 9, it's yeast and fungal markers. If you have a yeast or fungal overgrowth, you'll see these off the charts. So here we got tartaric acid off the charts a little bit. And so the orange bar will be in your quote unquote normal range. The T's, okay. So for those listening, each of these markers is going to have, and there's 9 markers in the yeast and fungal. It's going to be, do they call it a scatter box chart or something like that? Where it's like a rectangle with 2 T's coming out from it. That's what all these are going to look at. So if you're in the orange rectangle, you're within like a kind of normal range. If you're below it, but still in the T, you're low normal. If you're above it, but still within the T, you're high normal. And if you're outside of it, then you're outside the range. So like the tartaric acid here. We've got the bacteria markers, so the bad actors in your gut. If any of these are elevated, chances are you have small intestine bacterial overgrowth, which we can go through protocol for. Clostridia bacteria markers. This can actually be found in a lot of hospital workers. So if you're a nurse working at the hospital day in and day out, you could possibly have Clostridia bacterial overgrowth in your gut if you notice yourself having a lot of gut or skin issues or immune issues. So I'm not going to go into all these right now. I just want you to take a look at these. Page 2 has the oxalate metabolites. So these are going to be more of your metabolism markers, making sure we're where we need to be. 19, 20, 21, glyceric, glycolic, oxalic are what we're looking at there. We've got high oxalic acid. This person might have a hard time digesting oxalates, so we might try removing that from their diet and see if their overall symptoms improve. We've got the glycolytic cycle, metabolites. If you took biochemistry, maybe you didn't, I did, you went through the whole Krebs cycle. I believe they actually do have that as a page in here. I didn't put it in here, but when you get your report, you will see the Krebs cycle and see where things are. This person's looking good here, but maybe your metabolism's like a little crazy. And then we have the mitochondrial markers. The mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cells. If we all remember that, Bill Nye skit or whatever. But so we can see if there's any mitochondrial malfunctions here, which is super good. If your mitochondria are not functioning properly, it's going to be a bad day, okay? You're not going to be healing properly. Oh, here's some more mitochondrial markers as well. So we've got two little sections of those. So by now, if you're following along, you can see we checked 32 different markers, and we are only halfway through. I think total the organic acid test runs 70 something biomarkers. So that's pretty cool. That's a lot of data for your buck. That's what I'm telling you right now. Okay, so then we go to the neurotransmitter metabolites. This is really fascinating because you can kind of see if your mood has been off the last couple of whatever, like, is it your neurotransmitters that is happening? And of course, I've talked about the fact that the gut is totally connected to the brain. They call it the gut-brain axis. So if we are, struggling in these areas, we can recommend things to not struggle in these areas and live an overall happier life. And the last page, I guess I didn't, do I have 5 pages? Oh, I don't know where the rest of these markers are. Anyway, we are going to the pyrimidine metabolites, uracilthymine. This is regarding your iron, your folate metabolism, looking good here. 2 markers for that. We have ketone and fatty acid oxidation. We can see if you're fasting, are you pushing it a little too hard? Do we need to scale that back a little bit? Here, lastly, are the nutritional markers. So this is really cool to see for me personally. You can see if your body is metabolizing the vitamins and minerals that you need on a daily basis correctly. And I might have to do, I'm so sorry. There is another page of markers that I guess I never added to this, but it's more the same nutritional markers. But yeah, so we can see if you're too high in certain vitamins, if you're too low, if you're deficient. I mean, all these vitamins are so integrative in your immune system, in your metabolism. I don't know if you can pick it up from here. It's all connected. So I think that's all I have for you today. I thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully it wasn't too ridiculously boring. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you want to chat with me, definitely hit me up anytime. I'm going to give you right now my phone number. You can text me at any time, and it is 833-322-4533. I know sometimes reaching out on Instagram is scary, and sometimes, to be honest, I don't even get all my Instagram text messages or direct messages or whatever. So there is a line. You can reach me from your cell phone. It's probably in your hand already anyway, so send me a text. Any questions you have. Maybe you have, something weird that's been going on for a while and you want to get to the bottom of it, and you've been to the doctors and they're just like not quite helping you out getting to the root cause. Let's talk, okay? As far as the model goes, you guys all know I'm a personal trainer, so that's one thing. If you train with me, you will have free access to my brain the whole time. So you will be able to run whatever tests, that your budget allows. I'm not going to charge extra to read your testing for you. This is just a service I'm going to have for my clients that train with me because, that's just an added bonus for training with me. And because of that, my prices will probably be going up. I still have yet to strictly format everything. But if you are not interested in training with me, maybe you've got your own personal trainer, your own coach, that's totally fine too. I will be having separate, just, health and wellness, no training involved, available as well. Health coaching, where we can kind of make those lifestyle changes together, and still get your body rebalanced and feeling good. So I think that's about it, fam. I think I'm going to wrap it up here. You've got my cell phone. You're probably following me on Instagram, but if you're not, please give me a follow. If you like this podcast, if you want me to go more in depth on one of these tests, I can make a full episode about one of these tests. You just let me know in the comments, and just let us know in general what you want to hear. Make sure to subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and